All right. So for them being heard clearly, hey guys, welcome back to to another um another stream. So please let me know if I'm being heard clearly. I've just been sitting here for the past hour, so just waiting for the stream to start. So yeah, let me know if I'm being heard clearly. Thank you, really appreciate it, and thank you guys for joining once again to the live stream. We're just gonna jump straight into it, looking at some setups that we could get into, and I actually want to discuss something such as the U.S. dollar, right? So yesterday was a U.S. holiday, it being the birthday of Martin Luther King, and the banks was closed, right? So we didn't have much volume from yesterday's market, and I am expecting to see some USD strength coming into this New York session, just because of that market close, right? So we should see a movement, relatively drastic movement on the US dollar, especially since market has had time to digest all that information, the data from previously. So I do think that the US dollar should see some sort of a rally right now. All right, so I do have some USD possibility setups, but we look into it, right? So yeah, just let me know I'm being heard. All right, nicely. Okay, so diving straight into it. JPY, and it actually pushed up quite a bit, right? Since of yesterday, last night, right, when we had during the Asian session. I was expecting this push to actually happen as we saw some volume come into the market. Looking into it right now, let me just take this off, right? So last night, for you guys that are in the VIP in the Discord community, I would have said that I'm still holding the trade with that 2% risk. As you see, it's playing out right now. I'm looking to enter the trade. I'm still relatively looking for that buy position to actually continue upwards. But again, with that sort of expectancy for the US dollar to pick up some steam, we don't know whether that's going to really help move this any of the yen trades, right? So any of the yen pairs such as GBP, JPY, for instance, we don't know if that would actually help propel price even further upwards, just because of the basis of the move, right? Like the foundation of the move is just because of the low volume of yesterday. We didn't have any real movement, so the US dollar may pick up some steam now, which doesn't have to actually translate across the board in all the markets, right? Just because the US dollar doing good right now doesn't mean that the yen is just gonna take a nosedive and we're gonna start seeing price push upwards. So that is just one thing to hold in mind. So I am relatively gonna risk low, just 1%. Right, 1% right now is my low risk, as we had winners from the other trades. So yeah, going into this, I am still targeting this area right here. I would wait on the candle close. If we could close bullishly above this level right here. So let me just show you guys what I'm talking about. So yeah, if we manage to close into this level right here, then I do think there's a possibility that we could just come up and even target up into this area, right? So just taking a possible position. Yeah, something like this. This seems like a relatively good position that you could take here. All right, because if price does close above this area, we should see a continuation of the next candle moving with volume. We did have some GBP news as well before the market actually opened for the London session, so that should help propel price even further. It came out good, relatively good. If we take a look here, right, so employment change was good compared to consensus. We actually had quite an increase, right? The same as the previous, so it was a better than expected result. The climate count change, that was a little bearish. It came out higher than expected, but this shouldn't really affect too much any movement on price itself, because we're really looking at the employment change, and we're looking at the unemployment rate as well. Unemployment rate remained the same, so not good, not bad, just averaging. And well, we have the CPI and whatever for certain German area, right? So that's not too much. We don't have to pay attention to that really. So yeah, I do think that once we do push above this area, if we could get a nice bullish close above, then we could continue moving upwards. If we do close into the area, then I think on the next candle we could possibly see price pull even lower before it actually push higher, right? So that is just something to pay attention to. if you want to be more conservative on getting into the trade, I'll say you could enter somewhere above right here, right? So if price does reach above this area right here, then that's like the next possible area you could get into. So that's something to take into consideration. But yeah, this is the trade setup for me right now, actually. So I'll actually put my add my alert here. And let me just put it out here in the bracket. So let me just put it here in text. Alright, so that's 157,341. And the stop loss is, we have a stop around 15 pips. I just like when the stop loss higher than the actual amount that I'm seeing here, just to account for things like commissions, spreads possibly as well. $199. Right, and as always, we give this trade two possible chances, right? One, if it gets targeted into this area and we see the pullback, then I'll actually look to put in another entry rather around the same area. But again, if you want to be more conservative, you can put that buy stop right above here, right? Your stop loss will just be a little bit higher, around 22 pips or so, right? So yeah, so around 22 pips. But this seems like a perfectly possible trade right now. So we'll see what price does. We are pushing up right now with some momentum. Looking for the London session to open for that to continue propelling even further onwards. So we'll just wait and see how price reacts. And obviously we're looking at this level right here as a key level because one, what we had previously, we saw price continuing that bearish push down with CPI and everything. Right, we passed this area, came back up, sort of like created this first support. Let me just pull this back for you guys to see it more clearer. Right, so we kind of created that first support right here. Price kind of, you know, pulled away from that area. Just play this, right? Came here, rejected. All right, so that's why we marked it as our first resistance zone within this overall downward push. All right, and then we gradually started coming back up into the area, right? So we just note that this is an area here of importance. So once price does manage to push past that area, then we'll look to see whether we're going to get a continuation move or is price just going to reject and pull lower down. Now, obviously, for that reason, I don't have a fundamental bias as to why price should, you know, the yen should actually power through back to the downside right now. I'm looking to see this entire thing correct. Maybe not in this week. Maybe it might take 2 weeks or something. We don't know. But I am looking to see that possible correction of this move, or at least halfway of this move, right? So, yeah. If anybody have any questions, feel free to ask. All right. If you have anything that you want me to look at in particularly, also feel free to ask. But yeah, this is the trade I'm looking at. Looking at it. Once we get targeted, I'll hear the alert and I'll let you guys know that I'm in the trade. But for now, we're just gonna wait and see what price does, and giving it two chances, right? Because we could hit in, price could just reject on the next candle and pull lower. But I'm expecting the momentum to continue to the upside, especially with that that GDP data that we had just now. All right, another trade that I'm in, ADJPY. Right, ADJPY, I'm still in this from the previous one, and as well as a new position here. I do have my stop loss halfway on this new position here, just because, again, with the New York session coming in and even before that, price could actually pull lower, right? Because no volume yesterday means a ton of volume can come in today. USD pushes, and that doesn't have to reflect across the board on all the pairs. We won't have to see the yen actually lose steam and push higher on this or anything like that, as the AD and the other major USD cross pairs, right, as they come together and we have that USD push or bullishness, right, we might actually see that weakness being reflected on all the other currencies, right? So if AD USD starts to push down, we might see AD JPY push down. Again, this is just with momentum and where investors are putting their money towards right now, right? So we might see this coming down as well. You'll see AD CAD, ADCHF, all of this. So that's just something I want you to pay attention to, and we'll actually look at and see whether that's something that happens. And this all comes with the fundamental market psychology, and something that I would like to teach you guys, and that's in the VIP as well. But the only way you can learn that is from seeing it happening live in the current market situation, right? So yeah, that's something just to take into consideration coming up. We might actually see a pull down here on this as well. If you are in this trade, because I know some of you would have taken this trade within the VIP group, then you could actually exit this trade right at break even if you're still holding it, right? And the only other trade I'm looking at right now is possibly Euro USD. Again, for that play to the downside with momentum stepping in for the USD, I do think that this is a possibility that we could see price actually pull lower here. All right. So I do have a reasonable technical level to look at. If price manages to pull lower and actually close below this area where we have all this sort of a support being maintained within these areas, then I do think we should see a continuation with that momentum during the New York session, at least between the first 3 hours of the New York session or something like that, right? So that is something that has a possibility to play out. We have other things to look at coming up as well, such as the inflation rate and all of that for the Canadian economy. So we could expect some CAD moves too. As you can see here, inflation is expected to go down from 6.8% to 6.4%. That's the consensus. We'll see if this is actually how it comes out, or even lower. We also have core inflation rate as well, something to pay attention to. And CPI trim medium really doesn't really matter too much, but it just gives us like an average view of what to expect, right? And that's it. The only other thing that we have coming up that's important is the BOJ interest rate decision should be maintained the same. All right, they don't really do much changes with their policies or anything like that, and this could be either bullish or bearish for the yen itself, right? We won't know until it actually happens. My take on this, it would be sort of bearish, kind of, right? Just given that what we had from the USD having more good numbers, this wouldn't really impact the yen in a positive way, especially for those yen buyers that are trying, the sellers, right, that are trying to maintain that yen strength, right? That should just wick price up higher. So that is something that I think has potentiality to actually play out too. All right. And yeah, that's about it. So we'll see how price reacts. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to, hit me up with anything that you like to look at. In terms of anything else, we don't really have anything else to really pay attention to. Like I said, I'm taking it easy at the starting of the month. Not really rushing it, right? This year moving forward, I'm looking to probably do, if we could do 10% a month, that's great. All right, 10% around so a month, that's great. I'm not really looking to do anything higher than that. As a continuous thing, I don't want to get burned out or anything like that from the markets, right? So I'm just taking my time with any trades that I do look at, any setups that I do take, any positions or anything like that, right? And we have a lot of fundamentals, and with this being the first month of the year, we're just basically gaining a direction as towards what to expect moving forward, right? We have all these economies expressing their concerns on the inflation, wanting to halve it or reduce inflation, and we should get back to like the nominal inflation amount, which is between that 2 to 3% target by mid 2024. So right now we're just gonna see all the central banks, all the policymakers just basically be very hawkish on their stances towards getting to that goal, right? The only other thing that I do think we should pay attention to is probably any euro news that we do have coming up, because the euro has been kind of lagging behind. The euro and the pound has been kind of lagging behind all the other economies in terms of their policies. So that's the only other thing that I think that we should pay attention to. And one thing to note here right now, the DXY as well is actually ranging. So this represents the US currency strength, right? It's just like, it just tells you how strong the US dollar is. And we can see that it was gradually falling, right? So it's kind of ranging right now, back and forth, back and forth. So we'll see price action on the USD cross pairs itself actually do this sort of back and forth movement as well. Just because it hasn't actually picked a direction, whether we're going to continue moving downwards, if we're going to see a push upwards, so forth. I just think that we can possibly come back to this level here and then push back downwards, push downwards again, with that bearishness in mind, right? But again, with the New York session, I expect some volume to come in, which will give us a push upwards. I can be wrong, but this is something that I think is within expectancy and you should actually take into consideration. And then we could possibly see a pullback down. So that is something that I think is worthwhile to mention, to look out for. But I do hope everybody's having a great trading week thus far. You know, I hope you guys are having fun with trading as you should. Don't let it you know, get to you if you take a couple of losses. You know, the month has now started. It's kind of hard seeing losses when the month now start, and you know you're trying to make that cash from trading. But it's all within, you know, it's all within expectancy. It's something that you have to go through as a trader. You know, having the red with the blues, yeah, it's just part of the whole experience, right? So yeah, and obviously don't revenge trade if you take a couple of losers. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Come on, you can do better, right? So that's for anybody, new traders, experienced traders, whether you're a veteran, intermediate, it really doesn't matter how long you've been trading. It's habits that we could all fall into, because at the end of the day we're humans, and money is something we put on a pedestal, right? So how we experience money, how we interact with it, it really affects our decision making processes, especially with trading. It could push you on the edge, as somebody that, you know, just whether you're struggling financially or you're looking to get out of whatever financial situation is through trading, then obviously experiencing those losing days could have a negative impact. But I'm telling you, don't let it, right? So you just have to stick it true, do what you're doing, and obviously it'll work out in the long run. You just have to give it some time, have some patience with yourself. All right, just that's me departing some wisdom to you guys. Um, so you can see that price is pulling back from the level right now, right? So that is why I said wait until like we see that push above that area, or at least we target into this area. Then the possibilities increase that we could see that continuation movement. And obviously with that USD sort of play that we could see during the New York session could affect our movement on this as well. So yeah, just a lot of shit that could happen between now and then. So if you are in the trade from previous, this trade here, the first one, I suggest you could close. That would be around a 4%, 4.6 or something like that, and actually just pull this back. Right. So yeah, if you risk the 2%, is this? Yeah, if you risk the 2%, all right, this will be like 2% here. I thought the tree was like more than this. I didn't know it was like so, like just a tree. I want a tree. Alright, yeah. So at this point, you could actually, you know, take that out. Whether you risk 1% or you risk the 2%, it's still a win, and you could just wait for this next trade to actually come and happen. I'm just leaving it as is. Whatever happens, happens. As you know, I'm comfortable with my risk, and the risk strategy that we start implementing for the starting of this week. So we had some couple of wins before, so it doesn't really matter how this actually plays out. Sure. I have no problem. Let's look at gold. Um, yeah, gold. I have a I have a love and hate relationship with gold. Always had, and it started just being hate. Um, okay, so with gold, it's very extended to the upside. You can see very strongly. We have this very strong momentum push up, right? Again, with that US dollar weakness and those recession fears, all of that bearish negative tone around the dollar really help push gold even further higher right now, just because obviously in times of the economic uncertainties, safe haven pairs and commodities is something that you'll see gaining on those the backbone of US dollar weakness and stuff like that, right? So it's very extended to the upside. However, with the with the NY session approaching, I do think that we have a possibility to see price pull back a little bit. More so for the continuation, probably. Again, we don't really have any well, we have a lot of reasons to be bullish on the dollar, right? However, in terms of the market psychology and everything happening, we don't have like the sentiment around the dollar itself is it's a pretty bearish tone, right? So with that being said, I do think that possibly we could get a pullback on gold, maybe back down into this level here. All right, if you take a look on the 30 minutes, yeah, so I think that we could possibly see that playback, a pull even lower, right, in favor of the dollar. And then once we do reach into this area, we target down here, then we might just see a continuation back up to the upside. All right, but don't quote me on that. But this is something that I think that has, you know, the potential to actually play out, especially with that expected US strength to come in during the during the New York session. I think a momentum play to the downside is something that has a lot of probability to actually play out. So if I was to trade gold, which I am not going to, but if I was, I would say this is a trade I would likely get into, right? So we wait for price to actually clear this level. Because I mean, if you go down to the lower time frames, right, you can see that, all right, it gradually making lower highs, lower lows, etc. So we look to see if this is around the lower high that we created. Price pulls a little bit lower. Once we break this level, we should see a continuation moving down. If you want more of a higher probability of seeing your trade actually play out, then you wait until the pre-New York session, which is like right before the session actually opens. So like at 7:30 or 7:45 or something like that, which is around 8:45 for me, depending on where you are. Obviously, time zone will be different. But once that does happen, you could enter into the trade. If you do see it pull down here, then you could enter and see that, you know, possibility for that continuation even lower. All right. So yeah, we look to see. We look and see what happens. You know, if it actually plays out, then I'll be like, hey, next stream you get into that. Remember that gold call out that we did. But if it doesn't, then I'll just not mention it. I'll just not mention it. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll actually see. I'll look and actually see what happens with this, because I'm kind of interested to see how the US dollar reacts on the New York session open. I'd like to see whether or not it actually moves with momentum, or if we're gonna just see, all right, no, we're still weak, we're still bearish on the dollar, and we're not gonna give you the satisfaction of seeing, you know, some US dollar strengthening just because yesterday was a bank holiday. We'll look and see what actually happens, right? Let's see how well we actually know the markets. Yeah, that's about it. So we're just waiting for the London session to officially begin, and let's see what price does in that first movement. EDJPY, I'm still expecting this to play out a pretty high significant and in terms of pip range, pretty high, pretty significant, right? I don't know if we'll see this happening during the course of the week all the way out, but I think this is like, I'm comfortable with these levels here. Right, so hopefully that that goal analysis helped. And ADJPY, what's your second entry point? And you want to look at USD. So ADJPY, this was my second entry here. I believe I sent the buy stops within the yeah, I did send the buy stops within the VIP group. But yeah, it was around 89.581. That's where we entered, right around here on this candle push. Once price came into this area, we kind of rejected from it, but then we got that push above. Now we're retesting that area, right? And like I said, the New York session, during that session, I'm expecting to see some weird shit happen. So I do have my stop loss right at halfway of this second entry here, right? If price does come back all the way down here, then I'll look to possibly exit the trade and just take the L. However, I do expect to see that continuation move upwards, right? In the long run, that is what I'm expecting to see. So we look and see what if we actually get happening, or whatever price decides to do. Like I said, I'm not really in a it's really whatever at this point, because we have had some profitable trades since then, since the beginning of the week. So it's just a matter of just letting price do what it wants. And here at 80 USD, this was the second trade, came out around the 2% mark. It actually pushed all the way into the 3% mark here. But then price started rejecting more and more from that area, right? And again, with the New York session coming up, we could expect a momentum play to the downside in favor of the dollar, right? So all of that is something I say you should take into consideration, at least note. Alright, and US30. Alright, is US30 I want to see. Alright, US30. So the thing about US30, whether it's US30 NAS 100, XPX 500, whichever one you're looking at in terms of the indices, they all move similar. They have similarities with each other, and they all move up. They'll move upwards on the backbone of that weak dollar. And if the dollar is strong, we'll actually see price pull lower. So again, momentum plays. Markets open, New York session. Coming to when the actual indices open, right? I'm expecting a pullback to the downside, but then a correction back upwards. So I think if you're going to enter long, you should wait for price to come back into this level first. I think price has a probability of coming back here, revisiting here first, possibly, and then continue to the upside. But if I was just looking at normal price action without, price probably doing some weird crap during the New York session open, then I'll say, all right, maybe if we see price actually push past this area here, we're looking at these two areas. All right, looking at the 4-hour. Why is this an area? One, price pushed downward here. We had a candle correction of that same push. We kind of pushed above a little bit more, right? So this is one area to mark, just because we had this weird crap right here, right? Push down, push up, correction. All right, price now retesting above or right around the wick rejection of that area right here. I just come back here. Right at the most recent resistance, which would be this area, this zone right here, right? So if price manages to clear this, right, manage to push above, then I do think around right here you could enter for a trade just to go up, right? Possibly see a continuation or a continuing buy-in, right, on the US30, whether it's US30, NAS 100, whatever. I think they all look the same. We'll actually look at the others to see whether or not that is true. But yeah, once price does manage to push above and clear this area, I do think that you could enter for a long position somewhere right around here, with a relatively good stop loss amount. And yeah, maybe on 1 to 2.5 or something like that, right? So something like this seems like, a trade that you could get into. But again, I do expect price to possibly come to the downside with during that New York session. So you'll wait and see. I think the best thing to do is to wait and see after 9:30, 10 o'clock, right? New York session timing. Then you should look to take your trading positions, because by then the market will sort of what it wants to do, whether we're going to continue the momentum play, whichever direction we see it in, or if we're going to see a quick correction and move with that US dollar weakness or not, right? So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Yeah, but I think, yeah, if I was just looking at the normal technicals without all the weird shit that's bound to happen, then yeah, once price reach up here, enter for 1 to 2.5 or something like that. And if price does manage to pull lower, right, then I do think the next time you look for your next possible entry on a buy position for USD would be somewhere around down here, right? Because this is if you take a look at the 4-hour, right? Within this sort of a uptrending movement, this is like the next potential pullback zone to look at, right? So hopefully that answers your question. Reset this. All right, so we actually closed below that area that we were initially looking at to enter from. Price is pulling a little bit bearishly, so this is a good sign. If we could leave a weak rejection from the bottom here, and if price manages to push into the zone, then that would be great. I'll actually look to exit this around 2% probably, just because, right? We have like all of this to worry about on the next side. Right, so I want to hold it all the way to the 4%, but once we do reach like around 2% in profit or something like that, I do think at that point I would actually, advise to manage the trade, right? I'll take positions from my first initial setup, and that way I'll be able to hold this trade going forward, right, for 4.3% or something like that. So yeah, this is the trade. We'll look and see what price decides to do. Yeah, so we'll see what price decides to do. Yeah, really not much going on right now, so, because the only thing that we could expect to really see a lot of movement from is that New York session move, right? And we have a lot of time until then. EDJPY, yeah. And let me just take a look at the, so yeah, so NAS 100, SPX 500, basically same thing, right? They look very similar to each other. Yeah, it's basically a mirror copy of each other. See? So yeah, what happens on one happens on all three of them basically, and we'll see what price decides to do. Yeah, but hopefully you got something out of this. Waiting for the place for the GPJPY. We'll see how that plays out within the VIP and Discord, Telegram, whichever one that you are in. But yeah, this is just the expectancy. All right, so we'll see what price decides to do on all of this. But I think that's it from me, right? I don't really have much to discuss besides that. We'll look to see how price manages to play out on everything here. And also another thing that I'll just be looking at gradually is Euro USD, sorry, right? Again, if price does manage to pull even lower, right around that area of entry, then I'll just look to see, all right, is it gonna actually play out, or what are we gonna actually see here, right? But in terms of like any new trade setups that I'm looking to take, it depends. It really depends on what we have going on during the New York session. Maybe I might take a trade or two on this one. And I think the only other thing that I'll be looking at is probably like CAD and maybe CAD CHF. I don't really want to trade CAD JPY. CAD CHF probably. Yeah, so if you take a look at CAD CHF. Alright, so I'm marking the body of the from the wick rejection. Right, so if price pulls all the way back down here, then I do think we could potentially fill out this sort of range in movement, could fill back up to here. That is something that could actually play out. Also, this depends on how that CAD news comes out, right? This is at 9:30, so we'll see. And besides that, I'm not gonna take anything else really, especially in terms of like the US dollar. Nah, right? I just have to be a little more conservative, a little patient with everything for now. Right, wow. So see how price is pulling away from this area. That's crazy. So one thing to note here, if we do actually see a wick rejection from the lower side here, that'll be great for us in terms of a consensus for price to continue pushing upwards, right? Because if this movement here fails to actually continue all the way down, then that just says that, all right, the sellers really can't really hold a position right now, right? So you see this how it's starting to do this weird shit. Then we could actually potentially see price push all the way upwards, target us in, and even come all the way up into some profit, right? So we'll actually we'll have to wait and see, because this is just in the first few minutes of price action. So yeah, but that is the trade. Potentially looking for price to continue that movement up. So we'll see. Alright guys, so thank you for joining in on this live stream. I really do appreciate your patronage. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe so that you'll get future updated when I do actually, go live, as well as post any new videos. And also leave a like if you found this educational, you learned something out of it, then please leave a like. It helps the channel out a lot, helps me pay my light bill and my other needs for living. So yeah, thank you very much for joining in, guys. Really do appreciate it. And yeah, I'll just update you guys on what happens actually to the trade within the Discord community and Telegram, and we'll go on to see what happens during the New York session as well. All right, so that's it for me. Yeah, I do hope that you guys all have a great trading day or trading week, and just profitable overall. As you know, just all about the abundance of wealth, learn, earn together. And that's all about what TrinFx is about, what I'm trying to build. So thank you very much. See you in the next one. Peace.